So, good evening and good morning. Welcome to the book study of the Sunlit Path, the continuation of the Friday study circles that we used to hold. So, we are meeting after a long break, more than 3 months. A very welcoming, beautiful, peaceful, silent, in the most part break. So grateful for that. And as we resume, invoking Mother and Sri Aurobindo's presence, the divine's presence and grace in our lives more and more. As they say, they are always there. It is I who forget. And these words also that we will be reading in the Sunlit Path, most things we know, but we forget, or we think they are not important, or we are not able to remember or follow. So as we resume, aspiring and praying that may my receptivity increase, may my intelligence now turn into wisdom, and may I be able to receive what would help me on this path, while I'm aspiring to walk towards more purity, simplicity, ease, peace, and truth. So centering ourselves with our breath for the next few minutes. Thank you. So at any given moment, we are everywhere, but not here with the body physically present in the present. And this is why we try and just give a few seconds, a minute of centering. Because when I'm centered, when I'm focused, then I'm more present and I'm able to receive more, otherwise, the brain is scattered. So, at least while we are centering, if possible, we should try to hold on to the thoughts, like, maybe not look at the thoughts or ask them to just give us a few seconds while we are centering. So, the sunlit path, words of the mother. So, pages from conversations and writings of the mother. It amazes me that, the book, The Mother is, I think, 15 rupees or 30 rupees. Sunlit Path is 80. If you go and buy a shirt, it's like 3,000, 4,000. So it's like, it amazes us that how these things are so freely available. And maybe this is why we don't give it as much importance as we should, all of us, because we just take it for granted. So just a reminder that the passages of this compilation have been selected from the collected works of the mother. Almost all the passages have been taken from her conversations, a few from her writings. Details about the text are given at the end of the book, as well as glossary. And the frontispiece is a photograph of the mother on 5th July 1969 at the age of 91. So, this picture. Okay, at the age of 91. And I don't know if we have ever read this, but I thought if we are restarting, we might as well. A note about punctuation. Closely spaced points, we see them throughout the book, indicate a brief pause or hesitation in the mother's speech. These suspension points, the equivalent of the French points de suspension, I don't know, are used consistently in the mother's collected works texts from which the passages of this compilation have been taken. And as we might know, that these widely spaced points means that something has been deleted by the editor, which they felt was not important, was digressing maybe. So this is, if we want to know, most of the time we don't even need to know this, but if somebody wants to know, that's why they are there. So as we know, the book has been divided into various sections. So we are in the section called receptivity and aspiration. And if anybody would like to go through the old, sections, then our recordings are there on the website. The link is there. And just a reminder to ourselves that Mother said, do not take my words for a teaching. Always they are a force in action, uttered with a definite purpose, and they lose their true power when separated from that purpose. The Mother. Okay, so these are the two passages that we have taken up last time. Activity and passivity in sadhana, and the flame and the vase. So we had done this, and we were supposed to, and I think we stopped on a Thursday. I could be wrong. So aspiration and receptivity is what we have to take up today. So we'll, as we used to, we'll read the whole passage, then we can reflect on it if needed and share any questions or comments that we have. But again, reading more and more and more, I think we all realize that when we are reading Mother and Sri Aurobindo, the more present we are, like even reading that text is like a meditation. That if my being is fully present, I see much more than when I read in a rush or in my regular frame of mind. So now that, we have taken up this time from our very busy schedules where there's endless things to do, let us give justice and give it the time and attention that we must. So anybody who's willing can please unmute and read the passage, Aspiration and Receptivity.
Yeah. Aspiration and receptivity. Aspiration in everyone, no matter who it is, has the same power. But the effect of this aspiration is different. For aspiration is aspiration. If you have aspiration, in itself it has a power. Only this aspiration calls down an answer, and this answer, the effect, which is the result of the aspiration, depends upon each one, for it depends upon his receptivity. I know many people of this kind. They say, oh, but I aspire all the time and still I receive nothing. It is impossible that they should receive nothing, in the sense that the answer is sure to come, but it is they who do not receive. The answer comes, but they are not receptive, so they receive nothing. When you have an aspiration, a very active aspiration, your aspiration is going to do its work. It is going to call down the answer to what you aspire for. I'll just start this again. When you have an aspiration, a very active aspiration. Your aspiration is going to do its work. It is going to call down the answer to what you aspire for. But if later you begin to think of something else or are not attentive or receptive, you do not even notice that your aspiration has received an answer. This happens very frequently. So people tell you, I aspire and I don't receive anything. I get no answer. Yes, you do have an answer, but you are not aware of it because you continue to be active in this way, like a mill turning all the time.
Thank you, John. So, if any of us would like to reflect on the passage, any line in particular, or just go through the complete thing, they are very welcome to do so.
One thing about aspiration, after reading this is that when I aspire for something, right, I'm conscious of the fact that I'm aspiring, and let's say I stick to one thing, just one thing, and then every day I'm aspiring for it, then I'm very conscious of what is happening, and eventually when the grace comes down to answer it, then I receive it. But what I do on a normal day that I realize is I aspire for a lot of things simultaneously. And on top of that, I also am, moved by my desires. So all these things, these things together, they are revolving around me. And although, I say I'm aspiring for this, again, like the example this, I'm aspiring for this, I'm receiving nothing. Let's say I'm aspiring for unattachment, and I say I want to be unattached. I want to be unattached, and then the very next day I find someone else having a even something very a quality that I also want, and I say I also want this quality, and now my focus shifts to that quality and I become unconscious of what I've asked earlier, and eventually even the answer comes in, I realize that I'm seeing that I'm not attending to it, and I'm not attending to it, and it's like it to me it feels like a book or an object that I thought of using one day, and it's put somewhere, and eventually I forget where it is, and then I say I'm aspiring, but I'm not receiving an answer. So to what I take out from this is that to become more conscious and to to see what is happening. Yes.
Yes, thank you. When you were describing, it felt like, when we go out shopping or when we see anything fascinating, we like, I want this also, I could use this also. So one thing is good that at least the shopping has changed, right? The quality of shopping has changed, maybe a little bit. So that's something to be grateful for because there's always something to be grateful for. And now that I know, I can also have more sincerity. So just and how mother, right? Like we know this that when she was asked, what is one quality that you would say, I am paraphrasing as I remember it because these are not her exact words, that you would give the highest importance to, and she said sincerity. So I could be asking for a lot of things, which is okay, which is good. I want this also, this also, this also. And yet, do I have the silence, the stillness to receive the things I'm asking for? And yet, I would say it's good to keep asking, not to stop that. And yet, if obviously, as I see things, I must course correct, I must invoke more sincerity. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please, anybody else would like to share any experience, any insight?
Yeah, I think that, hello everybody, that emptying takes time, not certain. So, but it's not an overnight thing. But I think, as you just said, Taru, that, one should still keep aspiring. So that is important. But yes, the receptivity, if you're completely empty, you will receive like, there'll be like a flood, right? And there are times when we are very quiet, very silent, and you receive more. And then, as you said, you know, there are times when you're uh, full of other emotions, and you feel like you're just shut. Everything is closed. And then, sometimes we wonder, oh, just the other day I was so open, and what happened? It's so comical, right? Sometimes this, we go through these situations, and it is because that opening has closed. We read about this so much that we have so many different parts in our being, not unified. The other thing I was just the last part that we were reading. Uh, Sorry for the background noise. The last part that we were reading, I was just thinking, sometimes when we look back at our life, and maybe this is in a longer term, but we remember we've aspired for something, and then our life has changed. Our course of life has changed. And then you will realize that it is that aspiration in you that actually, changed events. And then you look back and you say, my God, that is actually why this happened the way it did. But that was just something that occurred when we were reading the last part. I don't know, maybe that is a little bit not, so it's looking a little bit at a broader level, but I did have that thought that came. Just wanted to share that.
Yes, thank you. And that's a great reminder because lot of times, in our life, sometimes some things happen and you're going through something or whatever, and then later, 2 months, 2 years, 5 years later, a voice tells you, this is why, this is why. And it's very, very beautiful, that how you're being held, how you're being guided, how it's not that, sometimes when we feel that the load is on me and where do I go? And so when these moments happen, it really adds to the beauty, and the faith even deepens and strengthens in both ourselves and the divine and the universe, that I was led to this because I had asked for that, or that's what I needed. So, yeah. So, just going through the lines once. At any time, please feel free to unmute and share or stop me. So, aspiration in everyone, no matter who it is, has the same power. So, this too is, I feel, I don't know, we need this reminder because sometimes we go here, sometimes we go here, that, I being who I am, why would my aspiration matter? People don't know I do this, I do that, I have those kind of thoughts, I still have those kind of desires, so we pull ourselves down. Or we might feel that, oh, I'm too high, oh, I've got it. Aspiration, I know exactly what it means. I don't need to know this. So, whoever we are, wherever we are, Mother says, aspiration in everyone, no matter who it is, has the same power. So no percentages, no where you are. So true for everything that, yeah. So but the effect of this aspiration is different. So the power is the same no matter who is aspiring, but the effect is different. For aspiration is aspiration. If you have aspiration in itself, it has a power. Only this aspiration calls down an answer, and this answer, the effect which is the result of the aspiration, depends upon each one, for it depends upon his receptivity, right? So, how much am I capable of holding? How much am I capable of receiving? How deep is my cup? How empty is my cup? Where am I? Where am I, here or lost when I'm getting the answers or when life is showing me, am I here? So mother says, I know many people of this kind, they say, oh, but I aspire all the time and still I receive nothing. So she says it is impossible that they should receive nothing in the sense that the answer is sure to come, but it is they who do not receive. The answer comes, but they are not receptive, so they receive nothing. So if I feel the same, either the time has not come yet, I will get the answer soon. Whenever he feels I need to get the answer, I am ready to receive the answer, or I have not been receptive and I can look at that. So mother takes this forward and she says, when you have an aspiration, a very active aspiration, your aspiration is going to do its work. Very active aspiration. So all kind of aspirations work, and yet there is an active and then there's a very active aspiration. Your aspiration is going to do its work. It is going to call down the answer to what you aspire for. So it has the power to call down the answer. But if later you begin to think of something else or are not attentive or receptive, just what Jagan was sharing, you do not even notice. So there's a probability that you won't notice that your aspiration has received an answer. And this happens very frequently. So people tell you, I aspire and I don't receive anything, I get no answer. Yes, you do have an answer, mother says, but you're not aware of it because you continue to be active in this way, like a mill turning all the time. So there's no space, there's no stillness, there's no time to receive. If I'm running, and somebody wants to give me something, how will I receive? How will I hold? How will I be available to receive? Even if they really want us to give us, we might not be there to receive it. Yes, so we can read more about aspiration if we want to, because we have touched it after a long time, in a text form at least I have. And before that, if there are any more reflections, comments, questions. So I just typed, like aspiration in the incarnate word, and I was curious to see what would come. So, one. Okay. So it has a lot of headings. And the first one is the value of aspiration. So there are different headings. I thought we'll just read like maybe one passage of each heading because there was a lot of repetition. So after that, there is the meaning. So if anybody is willing, they can unmute and read this for us. Otherwise, I'll read.
Yeah, Taro, I'll read. The value of aspiration. What you say is quite true. A simple, straight, and sincere call and aspiration from the heart is the one important thing and more essential and effective than capacities. Also, to get the consciousness to turn inwards, not remain outward going, is of great importance to arrive at the inner call, the inner experience, the inner presence. The help you ask will be with you. Let the aspiration grow and open the inner consciousness altogether. Taru, I'll read one more time. What you say is quite true. A simple, straight, and sincere call and aspiration from the heart is the one important thing and more essential and effective than capacities. Also, to get the consciousness to turn inwards, not remain outward going, is of great importance. To arrive at the inner call, the inner experience, the inner presence. The help you ask will be with you. Let the aspiration grow and open the inner consciousness altogether. So beautiful.
Yes, thank you. Again, in that passage, here also Mother has spoken about capacities, right? That we might falsely believe. Our ego might make us believe that I don't have the capacity, I'm not capable. And she says that's not true. A simple, straight, and sincere call and aspiration from the heart is the important thing. And she assures, and they have assured us again and again, and all the masters and mystics, I would say the same thing, that the help you ask will be with you. Rather, they say it is with you. We just don't see it because the consciousness, I think here for me, the most important thing was that to get the consciousness to turn inwards and not remain outward going. Anytime we observe ourselves, we are always outside, reliving something, fantasizing something, thinking that if that will happen, I'll do this. Or if that happened, why didn't I do this? I mean, it sounds stupid, it sounds mundane, it sounds not really. And yet, when we start paying attention, this is what we see, that my God, I'm crazy. For the lack of a better word, I can go on and on. So, but the purpose of all that realization is again an aspiration and a help, call for help to turn inwards. Because that too, I feel, is done by grace. It feels impossible to be able to do it yourself. The chatter is non-stop. So the value of aspiration is that it can also help us turn our consciousness inwards. Yeah, anything before we move to the meaning of aspiration? I'll share the link in case one would want to go through the whole thing. And if anybody is willing, they can read maybe first two of the meaning of
You
aspiration.
know,
Yeah.
Taru, I think in your search, I did the search too, and there is from letters on yoga from Shrivandu. Just if you go back, it's very nice. I was just seeing it. Maybe I thought, unless you want to, so if you just go back in the search on aspiration, I think it was a third link or something. Second, for me, it was the second link. Yes, that one. That one. Basic is quite beautiful.
I think it's the same one.
No, is it the same one? Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm seeing it slightly on the small format, so it looked different.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, the one you asked me to click on is the same one.
I
Yeah. So
see.
it's
So
from letters on yoga. Yeah. Please tell me.
okay,
Yeah.
no, 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 that's fine. Yeah, which whatever. So in mine it says will, aspiration, surrender are things that you must do yourself. Is that something that you're seeing? Hmm. hmm. I don't know why I'm getting a slightly different result.
I'll just go back and I'll just type will, aspiration, and surrender.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this one.
Uh,
Yeah, it's the same.
same. Can I read this one? It's from the
Yeah, this is
same book, but
yeah, this one, right? Will, aspiration, surrender are things that you must do yourself.
no, mine says basic requisites of the path, and then it says will, aspiration. I can read it maybe if you want, and then we can see if we can find it. I mean, I can't send the
Okay, yeah,
link
you
on.
please tell me. I'll type more and see. Yeah, you read?
Uh, okay. So this is from uh, Letters on Yoga. I think what Taru was just seeing. So Shubhendu says, will, aspiration, surrender are things that you must do yourself. Although, even in doing them, you must call in the divine power to help your will. Aspiration and surrender and make them effective. Why getting aspiration? Getting is in double quotes. Aspiration is an act of the will, and one can always aspire. This is what we had just read. There is no need of words in aspiration. It can be expressed or unexpressed in words. The aspiration need not be in the form of thought. It can be a feeling within that remains even when the mind is attending to the work. The higher consciousness may not come exactly according to the aspiration, but the aspiration is not ineffective. It keeps the consciousness open, prevents an inert state of acquiescence in all that comes, and exercises a sort of pull on the sources of the higher consciousness. The impatience and restless disquietude come from the vital, which brings that even into the aspiration. The aspiration must be intense, calm, and strong. That is the nature of the true vital also, and not restless and impatient. Then alone it can be stable. Let me see how long it is. Okay, it's almost done. As for the calm and equality needed, it must come down from above through the mind. That fiery aspiration is all right. That is the psychic aspiration, the psychic fire. Where the vital comes in is in the impatience for the result and dissatisfaction if the result is not immediate. Yeah, just that much. I don't know if you got it, Tarun. Did you find it?
Yeah, and in mine, it's in pieces. So this was
Ah,
it. It's the same document, fit further down. Intensity of aspiration and vital impatience. So you were reading it as a continuation, but see, for me, it was small, small, small. The file
oh,
is
okay, okay,
slightly.
okay,
I don't
okay.
know why that would be. Yeah. So would you like
Taru,
to summarize it for us? Yes, Shardaji?
maybe you can click on the letters on yoga.
Yeah, I think it's what she just said, Shataji, that
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it is.
yeah. Click on that.
But I think the point that struck me was like what Jagan was asking, that, even if it is not coming exactly, it is not ineffective. He says it keeps the consciousness open and prevents an inert state of acquiescence in all that comes. So it's like there is a pull on the higher consciousness to come down, and that is good, right? So I remember even listening to Alokta, and he says that he has said many times that aspiration is probably the most important. But yes, we talked about the emptying and everything. So, and that is what Shabandhu says. Um, and even that he says, it says, as far as calm and equality needed, it must come down from above through the mind. That is also something that descends from above. Yeah, that is very beautiful.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Put things more in context. So since we couldn't find it properly, just bits and pieces, so we can just maybe go through the simple lines of meaning of aspiration. We can read all five, six small lines. Anybody who's willing to read.
Yeah, I'll read. The meaning of aspiration. There is no deep meaning of aspiration. The meaning is plain. It is the call of the being for higher things, for the divine, for all that belongs to the higher or divine consciousness. It is the call in the being for the divine or for the higher things that belong to the divine consciousness. To aspire always means to call for higher things. Aspiration is a turning upward of the inner being with a call, yearning, prayer for the divine, for the truth, for the consciousness. I'll just read that one more time. Aspiration is a turning upward of the inner being with a call, yearning, prayer for the divine, for the truth, for the consciousness, peace, ananda, knowledge, descent of divine force, or whatever else is the aim of one's endeavor. Aspiration is to call the forces. When the forces have answered, there is a natural state of quiet receptivity, concentrated but spontaneous. Aspiration is a call to the divine. Will is the pressure of a conscious force on nature. Aspiration is a call in the being. It is not opening. Right?
Thank you. Jyoti. So very small, short sentences from what Mother has spoken about aspiration. And I like the first one the best, that there is no deep meaning, because sometimes, a lot of times, we feel that there must be something in it that I'm not able to understand. And it's more like, call and it shall be given. It is a call for the being for higher things, because aspiration would never be, oh, let me be more lustful or let me be more greedy. And we know that much intelligence, thankfully, we have. And those things, those are slippery slopes. They don't need aspiration. But the non-slipping needs aspiration, strength, grace, faith, and more grace. So it is the call of the being for higher things, for the divine, for all that belongs to the higher or divine consciousness. Yeah. So no deep meaning. I ask what I want to be, and as we had read before, I stabilize. I'm silencing myself. I'm stilling myself in parts, in moments, making myself more capable of receiving it. Yeah, inviting any reflections.
That long time back, I think we did that dynamic meditation. Some people may remember. I think it was from the Gnostic Center. Very beautiful, where they, the meditation is, and I think Mother has written about this, to throw in that flame into the flame of aspiration, all the negativities that you have, all the vital desires, the, the, the pride, the ego, whatever, right? I mean, just keep throwing it in there. That is the fuel to, for that fire to grow. That essentially burns them away. So then, we come back to the emptying the vessel, that the vessel becomes emptier that way. When you throw it into that flame, the aspiration then will burn it away. That's a very beautiful meditation.
Yeah. Some others' words, she had formulated it into a meditation and an active, like you said, meditation. Yeah. So going over to the object of aspiration. So here it is said that the aspiration should be for the full descent of the truth and the victory over falsehood in the world. Like we were discussing in the circle of harmony, that what is the truth that I'm fighting for? What is the purpose of it? What is it leading me to? Because my truths, because I don't touch the absolute. My truths are all relative. My truths are a lot of them are perceptions. So again, full descent of truth is what I can aspire for. Aspire for the constant contact and the light. It is in the light that the being will get organized in the truth. Aspire for your will to be one with the divine will. Concentrate in the heart and be plastic to whatever experience comes, neither forcing nor resisting any spiritual experience. I think this is very important again. And even Dr. Basu, he really stresses on this, aspire for your will to be one with the divine will. He says if we are able to do this, a lot of our problem is solved. And he said, recommends that we concentrate on the third eye chakra, and that would help us in aligning our will, like help us in getting our will aligned with the divine will. So Mother says, concentrate in the heart and be plastic to whatever experience comes. Usually because we are so used to having preferences and we feel we know what is good, what is bad. For me, I know my life. So even if I am saying I'm open, I'm not. Even if say I am doing meditation, Vishal was just talking about meditation, that in that too, if it's pleasant, if it's, if there are a lot of subtle sensations and I see this or that, I say, oh, good meditation, right? But if in a meditation, if in an hour I have just been struggling that, oh my God, today I couldn't, I say, oh, this was bad, that was good. I know, and the answer is I don't know. Just to be open to that, because somehow having that emotion or that emotion or that sensation is not important, is less important than the equality that I can harbor towards the various sensations and emotions. But I miss that in my preferences, in my want for certain things which I feel are good. I lose out on what I'm giving, what I'm getting, what I am capable of getting. So a powerful reminder, much needed reminder, that be plastic to whatever experience comes, neither forcing Lot of times I have heard this, and sometimes I've seen it too, that if we get a certain kind of experience, we want to replicate it. We want to have that kind of experience again. And mother says it never repeats, it never repeat. Just be open. Yeah. And this also reminds me that once Jet Sunmala was sharing something, and she was saying that, her guru, her Lama would give her some things to do. Okay, this practice, you have to do this way. And she would be like that, she would be seeing this and that and this, and she would tell him, because he would keep asking, okay, where are you? What would you experience? And he would just disregard it. And something which is absolutely maybe mundane that she felt she doesn't even have to mention. And she mentions that after some time, and he was like, yes, this now is good. Now we'll move to the next one. So the basic thing is that I don't know. I don't know what is leading where. So let me be plastic. Let me be receptive, because I truly don't know. But to say this and to actually believe it fully is very different, that I don't know.
Yeah, quite lovely. I don't know. Yeah, that is very beautiful.
Yeah. Since you have unmuted, would you like to read the next two passages, short ones?
Sure. Which one from the aspiration for the
Yeah.
supramental? Yeah. Nobody else wants to read?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. The aspiration for the supramental. Yeah, photos coming in there. Okay. Uh, yeah, okay. The aspiration for the supramental would be premature. What you have to aspire for is a psychic change and the spiritual change of the whole being, which is the necessary condition before one can even think of the supramental. To want to be a Superman is a mistake. It only swells the ego. One can aspire for the divine to bring about the supramental transformation. But that also should not be done till the being has become psychic and spiritualized by the descent of the Mother's peace, force, light, and purity.
Thank you.
Just
Again,
that.
putting things in context, right? What should one aspire for? You were saying something?
No, just that, right? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so I don't think much needs to be said, but of course, if there's any question, any reflection, kindly unmute. So, would anybody else like to read the next one? No need of words in aspiration.
There is no need of words in aspiration. It can be expressed or unexpressed in words. The aspiration need not be in the form of thought. It can be a feeling within that remains even when the mind is attending to the work.
We give so much importance to words about how I'm formulating something. Maybe, let it not be wrong, let it be best. And yet, mother says it's not the words, it could just be a feeling, and mostly it is when it's coming from the center, the depths of our being. And here we are talking about aspiration, which is something so powerful. But I have, even experienced that if one is asking for basic changes in one life, and if that is being, that request, that yearning, that longing is coming from within, that too is very, very, very quickly answered. Very quickly. I remember, there was a friend I had, and she was in a bad marriage, like very culturally different person she married to. They had three children, but it wasn't, I mean, it was a horrible marriage, and she was separating and stuff. And she said that one day, I felt so alone and lonely. And she said, I, sat down in my garden and I just started crying and asking that, God, send me someone who would make me smile. Something like this, or laugh, she said. And she said that was like a Sunday, and on the next Sunday, the future husband was knocking on her door, and he was a very jovial, very funny man. I think they lived for maybe 45 years together. He recently passed on. And she said, like, the next 45 years were filled with smiles and laughter. So imagine that this is a regular thing she was asking for in her life. Ke send me a man who will make me laugh. And that it took 7 days for the universe to, spin things around. And here we are talking about truth and the higher calling, how much power that in itself would have, right? Because they're just waiting that you ask and it shall be given. So it's very reassuring. Yeah. Just a few more minutes and we'll wrap up. So let's see. So the necessity of aspiration. If anybody is, I think Charuji, you had unmuted, right? If you would want to read.
Yeah, I'll read. The necessity of aspiration. It depends on the stage which one has reached. Personal aspiration is necessary until there is the condition in which all comes automatically and only a certain knowledge and assent is necessary for the development. Even if there is no rising up, the aspiration connects you with the higher consciousness and helps or prepares to bring down something from it. The higher consciousness may not come exactly according to the aspiration, but the aspiration is not ineffective. It keeps the consciousness open, prevents an inert state of acquiescence in all that comes, and exercises a sort of pull on the sources of the higher consciousness. I'll read one more time. The higher consciousness may not come exactly according to the aspiration, but the aspiration is not ineffective. It keeps the consciousness open, prevents an inert state of acquiescence in all that comes, and exercises a sort of pull on the sources of the higher consciousness. I'll read the next one also.
Please, it's very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, aspiration during the period of experience is not so necessary. It is in the intervals that it should be there. Why do you write, if I get aspiration? One can always aspire. It is your mistake to think that everything must come of itself and nothing is within your own power to do. The kind of belief in the necessity of passivity to all moments should be thrown aside. Will, aspiration, surrender are things that you must do yourself. Although even in doing them, you must call in the divine power to help your will, aspiration, and surrender and make them effective. I'll continue.
Yeah, we can stop here. I think we've been going
Yeah,
on for so long, and that's so really, really beautiful. The necessity of aspiration. So mother talks about the stage which one has reached. It would depend on that, the necessity. And she says personal aspiration is necessary until there is the condition in which all comes automatically. Today it's coming automatically. Say if one, has to dig for a tube well. So first the effort is needed, right? Every day there's digging, digging, digging. But once you find the water, once the pipes are in, once the connection is established, then maybe you can just, it's fully there. then one doesn't maybe need to aspire. But for us, for practical purposes of our lives right now, it's like it also feels like, even especially in this one where it's being said that if there is no rising up, even if there is no rising up, the aspiration connects you with the higher consciousness and helps or prepares to bring down something from it. It felt that it's like, how we talk about satsang, how we talk about companionship, that who are you in company of? So aspiration here also felt like, at least you're aspiring for those higher things, those higher consciousness. And even if it's not rising up, something in me is not rising up, just the aspiration helps me or prepares to bring down something from it. So I shouldn't judge, I shouldn't keep checking the quality, just the act in itself. The more I do it, I'm in that company of that higher consciousness. And when it's time, it will come down. Further, it is being said, like the one that you had read twice, the higher consciousness may not come exactly according to the aspiration, but the aspiration is not ineffective. Let me not judge that. If that way, it would be wrong. The aspiration keeps the consciousness open, prevents an inert state of acquiescence, right? Like we are not doing anything, it's just a false peace. Even in synthesis of yoga in the section concentration, Sri Aurobindo talks about that purity in itself without the concentration leads to acquiescence and just that peaceful state which doesn't do anything. So with concentration, it becomes active. And purity in itself is passive. So this aspiration prevents an inert state of acquiescence, and all that comes and exercises a sort of pull on the sources of the higher consciousness. Again, we are just, even if we can't reach, we are just trying to kind of, I don't know, pull something down or get some connection established. It's so visual and so beautiful. So again, this is connected to the first one, that especially in intervals, it should be there, even if it's not there during the experience. When there is space, right? When we are empty, let us not get digressed, let us not get distracted. And this one was also very clever because in our cleverness, somebody would have written, somebody like us, that if I get aspiration, some other says, no, there's no passivity in it, right? I can always do it. It is your mistake to think that everything must come of itself and nothing is within your own power to do. A lot of us feel that. So, this kind of belief is the necessity of passivity to all movements. This kind of belief in the necessity of passivity to all movements should be thrown aside. So, this is what I think even Vishal had read, that will, aspiration, surrender are things that you must do yourself. Although, even in doing them, you must call in the divine power to help your will, aspiration, and surrender and make them effective. Because, a lot of us in our cleverness feel at times that, if God is doing everything, we say that without Him, even a leaf doesn't move. So if the God would want me to aspire, I will aspire. If the God would want me to pray, I'll pray. I don't have to do anything. So she is warning us not to be that clever because we'll only be harming ourselves and delaying our own work. Just wrapping this up, activity in aspiration, tapasya, rejection of the wrong forces, passivity to the true working, the working of the mother's force are the right things in sadhana. Activity in aspiration, tapasya, rejection of the wrong forces, passivity to the true working, the working of the mother's force are the right things. And one has to aspire to the divine and surrender and leave it to the divine to do what is true and right with the Adhar once it is perfected. So Adhar being the instrument, once it is perfected. So this is where we'll stop today. So we basically started with this passage, aspiration and receptivity. And we were just reading on aspiration. We'll read a bit more next week before we take up the next passage, find that something. So a very important section, not that any section is not important, but receptivity and aspiration, especially in integral yoga, would be very important. So before we end, just thanking the grace, thanking divine for this longing, for this will, for this want, for this aspiration in whatever quality, in whatever quantity that is present in me. May it flourish more, may it gain more force. May I become capable of receiving more. May I want to aspire for the right things so that I can be connected more and more and more to the higher. Sharing the merit of my karmas, my actions, my thought, the good actions and thoughts with everybody. May everyone be truly happy and truly at peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Taru. Thanks.